Welcome to the Indiana Football Postgame Show with Jim Coyle and Coach Shannon Griffith. A production of ISB Media. Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle, and game analyst, Coach Shannon Griffith.
Hello and welcome to the Indiana Sports Beat Radio postgame show. I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith and Mr. Jim Coyle. What perfect timing we have tonight.
Well, there you go.
Indiana's perfect timing all night.
I can tell you on the offensive side of things, their timing was dead on as Fernando Mendoza puts on a clinic with his second consecutive 5-touchdown passing performance. And he already led the Big Ten in touchdown throws coming into this game. So he has another 5 to that total. But the absolute unbelievably dismantling of Illinois by the Indiana defense. I was not shocked to see Indiana win because I expected them to win by 2 scores. But this was another Nebraska type of thing, man. If it hadn't have been for that blown coverage in the secondary early on, probably would have scored 6 points max in this game. And this is also, I never believed that Illinois was a top 10 team. A lot of hype going on based off of last season. But if you have any doubts about Indiana, those should have been quashed. And they hadn't been getting any love from the national media. Neither had been Fernando Mendoza. But that should change for both parties after this evening.
Well, we sure would hope so, as we know that Indiana has still been treated like the little poor stepchild that they put on the front porch on the family dinners. But what can you say about Indiana's offense tonight? 579 total yards of offense, a 4th straight game. Wait for it. 4th straight game. Wait for it. And I don't care if you're Michigan, Ohio State, or any of the big boys, over 300 yards rushing for 4 straight weeks. That in itself may be a record in Indiana for the number of games in a row over 300 yards. Just a complete, I don't care, butt kicking, ass kicking, however you want to put it. Indiana out physicaled them at the point of attack on both sides of the ball, and they punished them in the secondary with their physicality tonight and left no doubt who was the tougher team.
Yeah, the battle on the line was obvious early, and we'd heard a lot about Illinois because their offensive line has, from what I understand, the most starts in all of college football. Well, that doesn't mean a whole lot tonight because Indiana looked like they were pissed off. I mean, went out there and just started putting it on them. Now, as Coach Signetti mentioned in the post-game presser, hey, just watch the Duke game. It happened in that game too. But Duke turned the ball over 4, 5, 6 times, whatever it was. Yeah. Indiana did not do that, which was critical. But, the offensive line, not as good as a lot of people thought. Indiana, any doubts I may have had about their defensive line were kind of erased tonight because now the secondary did incredible. They provided a lot of opportunities for that line, and they feasted on those opportunities. 7 sacks. It's just an unbelievable beatdown. And don't forget, Indiana fans, Brett Bielema was the coach at Wisconsin back in 2010 when they hung 83 on Indiana. So I was wondering if that mark would squeeze up to 70 points tonight. But the difference between that game and this one, Indiana wasn't the top 10 ranked team going into Camp Randall Stadium. That was just another Indiana team. This was a loss that it's going to be hard for Illinois to overcome with people like the College Football Playoff Selection Committee and AP voters and whatnot. I don't know how far they drop, but they've got another game coming up next week that will probably take them the rest of the way out of the AP Top 25 if they can stay in it with USC coming to town.
Well, they have USC coming to town, which is now down to Michigan State 7-3 early in the first quarter.
Wow.
Indiana holds Illinois to 2 yards rushing on the evening. They hold Altmaier to 14 of 22 for 146 yards and just 1 touchdown. That was the blown coverage. 64% completions, all lows for him on the year, I do believe. And I said it on the tailgate, the way Duke had played against these guys, had they not turned the ball over 5 times, that game was a lot closer than the score indicated. And they had a lot of sacks in that ball game too. So again, sometimes you've got to just let the talk be the talk on the outside, but go prove it between the white lines. And as Lee Corso would say, when you win, say little. When you lose, say nothing. Well, I think Illinois is going to be saying nothing, and Indiana should say very little about where they're at and where they're going, because they have to get right back up on the horse and head into Iowa, who comes off a huge win at Rutgers, coming from behind to beat Rutgers out in New Jersey on Friday night.
And don't think that Iowa City is easy. It's not an easy place to play. Let me tell you, Iowa's defense is always top notch. Their offense is up and down. And right now, I don't think they have an offense that can keep up with Indiana. But we'll talk more about that when we get closer to that. But Indiana, one step closer to going 5-0 now, is before they head off to Oregon. But this is the toughest. This is the hurdle one of a 3-step hurdle, the toughest stretch of their season, with this game at home against the 9th-ranked Illini. Now they go to Iowa next week and follow that up with a trip to Oregon. And boy, if they could get to 5-1 out of those first 6 games, you're going to be looking at Indiana with a great chance. I don't know that they can beat Oregon. We'll wait till that game comes around in 3 weeks, because I think Oregon might be the top team in the country. But Indiana looked pretty damn good tonight. The offense with Fernando Mendoza, I talked about it last week, that I know it was Indiana State, but he just looked locked in. He just looked better. His throws were crisper. And tonight, he put it all together. He had gone from whether it was Omar Cooper to Elijah Surratt having big weeks to everybody having a big week. He had 4 receivers that he threw a touchdown pass to in the first half tonight. 4 different guys. So he is finding everybody, going through his progressions and not running. He is doing what he needs to do to manage his team, and he's doing a hell of a job of that.
I said it on the tailgate on Thursday night that this defense for Indiana had to remain aggressive for the better part of this ball game and not give them an inch. And I thought Brian Haynes called a phenomenal game. And I said the same thing about Mike Shanahan offensively. Has to be an aggressive play caller with dedicated, I want to get the ball into X's hands right now. I thought he did a tremendous job with that, and it was indicated in the play calling. He gets Nowalski on a middle screen on a 3rd down blitz. I was saying in the first half all night that Illinois was bringing pressure on every 2nd and long. Indiana finally caught on to that, and that's when some of the big plays were happening, especially to Surratt. So, again, I thought Mike did a heck of a job calling this game once he got the game feel and it kind of came into him. And then he really started, riddling off the plays that Indy did. And how about Hemby? Hemby was another workload tonight. He had 14 carries, 65 yards. Black. How about that kid?
Come on, Black.
How about
get
that
his
kid?
Opportunity with Lee Beebe going down? He gets more opportunities, more carries. And he made the most of it.
Yeah, the 10 carries for 89 yards, 8.9 a carry, and then the young pup comes in, Martin, 12 carries, another 100 yards rushing, long of 31 and 2 touchdowns, 8.9. So you're correct. The wealth was spread equally around, and Illinois, they just couldn't be right in what they tried to do. And you alluded to it earlier. It was kind of like the Nebraska game, that it didn't matter what Illinois called. Indiana just seemed to have the right play call 95% of the time.
Yeah, and then defensively, like you said, there was this smothering. The first breath that I think that Luke Altmaier took was probably just when he got on the bus a little bit ago, because he was running for his life most of the night. Even when times that he didn't get sacked, it was just what a performance this defensive line, because that was where I had the most questions. We knew their secondary is great, led by D'Angelo Pons, and how about that? Starting the game off, not only with a block punt, but he scoops and scores picks it up for an 11-yard touchdown, but he gets the block and gets it in there. Man, you want to talk about starting your night off right. And then Indiana does what they did throughout the first half and then gets the ball back to start the second half. It just was like a snowball rolling downhill with a jetpack on the back of it.
Well, Indiana's special teams right now has won that battle by a landslide through the first 4 weeks of the season. Tonight, they find a way. They block a punt for the score. Even Brady, on the one return that he had, he set up a score, getting the first down of a 10-yard gain. And then I think it was like 2 plays later, Indiana scored after the Illinois kicked it. And you're correct. It was just a game that it's hard to pick out anything Indiana did wrong besides, like you said, the blown coverage there that led to the only touchdown Illinois had. 5 for 5 in the red zone. I mean, in that regard. Now, the clean part of it was they had no turnovers tonight, as did Illinois. They didn't have any they had 1 turnover, so Indiana came out plus.
When they were an ISB, I believe.
Yeah.
Their first turnover of the year, by the way.
Yes. So both teams in the turnover department had been playing pretty well, but Indiana won that battle too. It's a crazy 7 sacks, like you said. TFL tonight, 53 yards, 10 tackles for losses. And talk about the play just being there. You talked about the defensive line. How about Landino and Tyreek Tucker's play tonight? I thought both those kids came out of the box, like the box that you pop out of around the Christmas tree, because all of a sudden those kids were just everywhere in Altmaier's face.
Yeah, I think Altmaier may thought that they had Illinois jerseys on. He saw them so much. And they have just risen up and done a tremendous job. And now you've given yet another weapon to this Indiana defense that we weren't sure about. We knew that they're good at linebacker with Aiden Fisher, and you didn't have to hear his name a lot tonight. How good is it when you have an All-American linebacker, but he's not even the center point? Because your defense played so well that it was spread out. Indiana, I thought before we came into the season, and I said it a lot, that I thought this was a better team than it was a year ago. And now I'm more convinced of that. This is a better team because they are better offensively, substantially, than they were a year ago, because they're substantially better on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of that with Indiana. They give up 1 sack tonight. And again, 400 or 4 straight 300-yard rushing games. It all comes back to the offensive line. And the fact that Fernando has that time to throw the ball like he does, and it's all just coming together. And the wide receivers doesn't get talked about enough. Downfield blocking that the IU receivers do is phenomenal. E.J. Williams absolutely propelled the touchdown that happened right here in this end zone behind me. I can't remember who it was.
Cooper.
That was
Omar Cooper.
That's what I thought. Omar Cooper. That was just a simple throw-out pass, and he just ran up the sidelines, and there couldn't have been this much room there. But E.J. Williams held that block, and I was like, wow. And I watched it back, and I'm like, those are the little things that winning teams do, and those are what happens when winning teams do those things.
And don't forget, and this is, Coach Shanahan, although he is the offensive coordinator, he's a very demanding wide receiver coach. He's the guy that's calling the shots in that wide receiver room, and his expectation of those guys are met by them being able to block downfield, like you said, and that goes hand in hand with any run game that's worth a damn. Is you're blocking on the perimeter, and that's what made Indiana the first 4 weeks so hard to defend rushing the ball, because they're getting that second level extra effort by those guys. And tonight was no exception. They just went out and they just out physical. And I never seen Indiana just completely out physical a team in the Big Ten like they did tonight. I mean, Illinois lost at least 3 players tonight on injury on defense. That's how physical
Yeah.
Indiana was.
And how many penalties did Indiana have on the night? 4?
Well, I think their most penalties were due to false starts, which is
Well,
not going to
I
make
know they had
somebody
2 of
happy.
those, but no, I know they had 2 of those. But how many total penalties did they have?
They
I don't
had
have the stats in front of me.
two penalties for 10 yards. Illinois had
That's it?
4 for 23. Yep.
So those 2 false starts were the only penalties,
Yeah, they had no holding calls tonight.
which is amazing. But both of those penalties that they had, false starts, both were followed up by touchdown passes by Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Both times. That's he hits his tight end Orowski on one of those. That screenplay that they set up, oh my God, was that beautiful. And these Indiana players, running backs, they are running so hard. I mean, they are putting in, and they're not leaving anything on the field. This team is playing like a championship top 10 caliber team. They are doing everything right. They are hitting their marks. The offense is doing what they're supposed to do, not getting dumb penalties. And even when they get a couple, they overcome them. The receivers are running their routes. They're blocking their blocks. Fernando Mendoza is going through his progressions. These running backs are running their ass off. This offense is looking pretty damn good, and we're only 4 weeks in to this season. This is going to be a hell of a fun year for the Indiana Hoosiers and fans, because I don't know where this thing ends up, but this is a better team than you had last year.
Yes, and I think that's like we said, a fair assessment based upon what they got up front on the offensive line. And I found the funny part about the physical comment that I just made, and even you made, being there in person, is that on ESPN's College Game Day today, I do believe 2 of the guys, I'll not name them, Saban and Herbstreit, talked about Illinois is a more physical ball team than Indiana. Well, I think that got into the meeting room by way of probably Coach Signetti, and that comment those 2 will not live down for a couple weeks, because that right there was a big shot across the bow, I thought, earlier today. And the fact that they picked them, even though Vegas had them as a 7-point favorite. I was saying the whole week, what's Vegas know? Because that line keeps going up and up and up.
I told you, Indiana was just a better team. They were better at every position. Every position group was better. Just unexceptionally, even special teams. They were better at every single position. And that's part of it. But they played like they had a chip on their shoulder. They played like that got into the locker room. They played like they have not been getting any national respect. They played like their quarterback has been getting 0 national respect. You don't see Fernando Mendoza's name mentioned with Heisman potentials and this and that right now. All these polls and yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, what are you all not seeing that I'm seeing? Because the dude has now had back-to-back 5 touchdown weeks. He's had missed on 4 total passes in the last 2 weeks. What is he, like, thrown for 42 times in the last 2 weeks, and he's 38 of 40 or 40 of 44, whatever it is, something like that.
Crazy.
90. He was at 91% completion last I checked. 91% completion rate.
He did. That's where he finished tonight. 21 of 23, 260.6 in his QBR rating, which is phenomenal. His throw to the touchdown pass he threw to Surratt was unbelievable. Right hash completely across the field and never broke stride on the outcut. And then he targeted E.J. Williams on the one throw where he had to elevate it, where only E.J. could go up and get it. And that was another throw. And it's funny that you brought up about the Heisman aspect of things. Sporting News put out an article right after the game was done. It said, "Meet well, I can't remember. It was about Mendoza being the dark horse. I'm sorry, the dark horse.
Dark horse.
Yeah, the dark horse of the Heisman Trophy, and that was within minutes of this game going final. I thought that was quite funny to all of a sudden now see the recognition for Fernando. And did they think the NFL scouts are stupid? I mean, NFL
Yeah, there was plenty of those here tonight as well.
Oh, I bet they were. I bet there were. I just
was that by? I assume that was by Bill Bender from the Sporting News, maybe.
It may have been. I didn't see who it was by. I just kind of saw it across my screen. It was like, oh, somebody else has noticed.
I think that he is one of the few people. He was on the show Friday. Bill Bender from Sporting News, and I think I said it to him. You're one of the few people from the national side of things that has kind of noticed anything at all. But that I sent out a tweet earlier in the game, said that changes for both tonight, Indiana and Fernando Mendoza. You don't beat the number 9 team in the country 63-10 without catching a lot of eyeballs. And I don't know if Saban is purposely downplaying Indiana, because he is, even last year, he never was on that bandwagon. You know, he's a big OG hard timer, SEC hard timer. He goes by, you got to have that name right there. And Indiana is just Indiana. But one of these days, he's going to have to acknowledge that the upstart Hoosiers, it's a different era in college football, people. There are teams that are good now. And look what Cignetti has done, where he has been and where he is now. And he is following up on last year's extraordinarily crazy good year with one that has a better team. Is this year going to be better? I don't know. I can't say that yet, because they've got a lot of games to play. But this team is looking very strong. Got to stay healthy. That's the most important thing going forward. And but man, I don't know that Indiana looked this good this soon last year. They were obviously a top team offensively and defensively, but they just didn't. There's something about this team. You could tell there's just a little something different. They play so hard right down to the last minute. And that's why when you see Kurt Cignetti on the sideline and he looks like he's pissed off, because he wants to be pissed off. He wants his team pissed off right until that clock goes to 0. It doesn't matter what the scoreboard says. He wants you to play like you are pissed off. And, boy, they sure seem to do that tonight, because now after the game, the only ones that are pissed off is Brett Bielema and the Illini.
Well, I've got up there on the screen, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, that the quote was from Bielema after the game: "I'm at a loss for words. Never been part of anything like that." Well, that's because that was the thorough ass kicking. And
you're on the other side of one.
You're on the other side of one tonight. But I just think you're correct about the mindset, the standard that Cignetti preaches all the time about it. He wants that edge from start to finish with nothing left at the end of the game. And I think the kids buy into it. I tell you another kid that's been a huge pickup for Indiana, and I'm not sure enough people outside of the program are talking about this kid as well. Pat Coogan from Notre Dame. He is such a leader, and you can just see him and Mendoza, two smartest guys in college football. They just dissect everything for the position groups, and you can see that on the sideline, the way they communicate and the way Coogan communicates tonight. And it was kind of interesting to watch him really lead the offensive line tonight, making calls, and they even commented about that in the broadcast from Blackledge about his leadership. I think that's another key player this Indiana team picked up in the offseason was Pat Coogan from Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Well, without question, that entire offensive line kind of revamped, and they got the right pieces in the right places. And buddy, Bob Bostat has them hitting on all cylinders, and this offense is hitting on all cylinders. I'm so surprised how quickly it has come together. I mean, between weeks 1 and 2, we saw that little growth, and then we saw more growth, and now between 3 and 4, like I said earlier, it has all come together. And that's what I saw. I saw an offense that was together, both in the running game and the throwing game. And man, I cannot believe this running game. But still, you lose one of your top running backs, Lee Beebe Jr., and they don't miss a beat with Kalen Black coming in, and then Kobe Martin. It's just next man up, and it's not just it's not just a phrase. It's a deeply hung philosophy on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they do, all these phrases that you hear Kirk Cignetti say, they live that. They actually live that, and he preaches them to live that way, because you have to do it. You can't just say it. You got to do it. You got to live it, and they're living it. And they see the picture at the end of the bigger picture. They see the prize at the end of the road, and that road it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
No question. And I think we had talked about this week about the relationship or the trust that's developed between Mendoza and the receivers. I think tonight exploded that relationship with a number of passes that were thrown and distributed amongst all of them. And that was another thing that I've noticed from week 1 to now. It's gotten a little bit better each week because Mendoza's gotten comfortable within the offense. And it's also, he's gotten more comfortable with those guys running routes. And tonight, I just thought it exploded, like you said. And that's another sign of Indiana being a very difficult offense to defend when you have a rushing attack like they have and now a passing attack behind it. I mean, how do you defend it? I mean, they forced the best time to make a defense hurt is when they come after you. And tonight, Indiana did that and made them pay for it. And once that was decided, the factor, Illinois had no answer.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how far Indiana moves up in the AP poll. Some of that will have to do with teams in front of them, no doubt. But it's just interesting to see how much the narrative changes amongst national pundits as we move forward. Pat Forty was here, and he's like, yeah, it's a football school now. And he was kind of laughing, but serious, because to see it is to believe it. And to see this is to believe it. This was, they weren't playing Indiana State. They were playing number 9 Illinois, a team that the national writers had voted to be the top 10 team. And this was the 4th week. It's not like this just happened. So now you have to put, almost by default, they have to put Indiana in that conversation. Indiana has to be the leader as far as thinking who this 4th Big Ten team is going to be. Michigan got a big win. That was a big win by Michigan today out of Nebraska. But I still think Indiana is ahead of Michigan in my thinking there. I don't know where Penn State actually is yet. I said Oregon. I think Oregon's the best team in the country. But you got Oregon and then Ohio State, of course, Penn State, Indiana. If you don't think the Big Ten has got some teams at the top, Michigan, USC, they're going to be strong, but it's going to be a fun year as this season continues.
Well, that is correct. And to answer your question, several commentators have made those statements tonight about Indiana, and especially the Big Ten Network guys really kind of laid it on pretty thick of those guys that were not recognizing Indiana for being a good football team. And it was kind of the rounds of I told you so to those that had doubted Indiana's schedule and last year's being a fluke. Hey, that's the best thing to do is when you got a team like this is, like I said, say very little. All you have to do is strap it up and go play in every week. Let other people do the talking for you. Stay out of the limelight and don't believe what's being said, as they call it, rat poison. And that, no, I know for sure Cignetti will make sure that is perfectly clear to this ball club going forward about you won tonight, but you got a tough road trip next week to Iowa.
Yeah, ESPN will not have a choice but to talk about Indiana. And it's going to be interesting to see what Nick Saban and Kirk Herbstreit have to say next week as the Hoosiers go into Iowa City, a very, very difficult place to play. But Iowa is, a good, very good, solid team. they're not on Indiana's level. And I think that they'll possibly give Indiana a better game than Illinois did because they at least have a defense, I think. I don't know how good their secondary is or their line is going to be. We'll find out. They're known to usually have good secondaries, but that's probably going to be an actually better test for Indiana next week than this game was, because this game turned out to be not much of one, to be honest with you. But I think that Indiana still goes to Iowa City and wins comfortably, and by comfortably I mean by 2 scores.
Yeah, and like I said, for everyone out there, us included, talking about how to, going to Iowa is not easy to play and win and so forth and so on. The one beauty of it is Cignetti doesn't give a crap because he's never been to Iowa to play them. He doesn't really care what it's like, nor do these players, because 90% of them probably haven't been to Iowa. So the interesting part is that game, like you said, will be a true battle because of what Iowa has got offensively now. They do have a legitimate kid at quarterback that can make you pay, and he's fleet of foot, so he's a dynamic kid that can run the ball. So they will be tested next week for sure. But I do believe, like you said, that I do think Indiana goes out there as a favorite, even though it's in Iowa.
Yeah, and even though that the kid that they got from South Dakota State, he threw for 10,000 yards in 2 years prior, but Iowa is still a Kirk Ferentz offense, and that is not one that throws the ball. So they're going to have to do something, because you're not going to just line up against Indiana and run over them. You might score, but you're not going to run over them, and you better have a backup plan, and that plan will have to go through the air, and good luck with that, because Indiana's got a pretty damn good secondary. So Iowa is going to be a tough challenge, but Indiana is just better than I think people have given them credit for. And now they'll start to get a little bit more recognition. Then you start getting a little more pressure with that recognition, though. Right now, when you don't get that recognition, well, there's no pressure on you because the expectations aren't there from the outside, at least. But the thing is, Kirk Cignetti would always have to say, you got to ignore that. You got to manage your own expectations. Don't worry about outside world, whether it's positive or negative. You got to do your deal, and that's what they've done, and that's how he was tonight. He has been this year in the post game with the media. He's been a little different. There was one question that came up, and I think it was about this very thing. What does this do to help quiet your critics from last year? Yada yada. And he's like, he kind of hem-hauled in old Cignetti style. I can't control that. I leave that for you guys. You do all that stuff. And he looked over at SID, Jeff Pegg, he with a smile says, I want to say it, but I won't. So there was a brief moment. He almost let it out. But, it was kind of funny. But, man, just an incredible – and the fans, an incredible night. They stayed for most of the night. The only reason some of them left is because it started raining. Yeah. Pretty damn hard. And I had to look up. I'm like, oh, hell, it's raining out there. And I mean, it was pouring. But that was kind of brief and then went away. And the fans were loving it. They were using the towels they got, put on their heads, and enjoying the hell out of a national televised ass whipping that Indiana put on Illinois. And man, oh man, what a time to do it. You had the world watching.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The fan did show up and show out for the entire ball game, and the student section was loud. You could tell that by just the way the sound was coming through on the field mics and things like that. But it's a neat thing to see when you have success and people recognize that success, and it gives you something on a Saturday night to do in Bloomington. And I'm sure the Kilroys and all of them are up and having fun right now down there in downtown Bloomington at the moment. But again, I don't know what else.
Let's hope this is not the last night game, because this was, like I said, an electric environment. It was fun. The people loved it. They were out tailgating all day and enjoying. The weather was tremendous. So let's hope that another night game comes along. And I'm not sure when that would possibly be as far as home games, because they only have, 2 home games left? Or is that right?
Well,
Michigan State and Wisconsin. UCLA, they got 3 left. So
they got 3 left, right?
I don't think that either of those, although Michigan State is playing pretty well, but I don't think either of those are going to be worthy of being put on in prime time. Now, there are road games at Oregon, at Penn State. Well, no, those 2 that I just spoke of would be something that could be sucked up by one of the bigger networks. Whether CBS has the 3:30 games, so and that Oregon game, it's not going to be a noon game just by virtue of the fact that would be 9 o'clock out there. So for it to be a noon game out there, then that's minimum 3 o'clock here. So that eliminates one of those. We'll see. It'll be interesting, man. Those are champagne problems. Problems.
Yes, they are champagne problems. But yeah, they have not announced the Iowa start time for next week, so I'm sure we'll find out within the next couple days of whether or not that's,
I thought I saw a start time for that.
Oh, have you?
Which I was shocked by, because I saw it the other day, and I'm like, well, that's early. And I think it was 2:30.
So that
which makes it a 3:30 game out. Yes, which makes it a 3:30 game, right? Is that right? Yeah,
that would make it
3:30 here. So that makes it a CBS game, very, very, very possibly. So you've got the winningest coach in the history of Big Ten football now, Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, as he surpassed Woody Hayes last week. But Indiana, the last time they went to Iowa, had similar expectations, but these are a lot more firmly rooted than those were before. And man, oh man, Indiana's going to start making some noise, and they're going to have fun doing it. That's for certain.
Yeah, no question. And I would imagine you ready to wrap this up, because I think we've heaped enough of praise on everyone and anyone that we could think of. There's so many that we could point out tonight, and I think we've done that because of the way these kids played and way they just steamrolled the number 9th ranked team in the country, the Illinois Fighting Illini, and Bilma. So we appreciate you for joining us once again here at the Indiana Sports Beat Radio Postgame Show. For Mr. Jim Coyle, I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith. We'll see you on the radio come Monday.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.